Well, I haven't been doing much on my shaper project, on my porch project here lately. Winter's coming on and I just had to do something with the cabin to get it weatherproofed again there. All the tar paper and everything had ripped off of it. We were living in a tar paper shack and the tar paper ripped off, so there wasn't much to keep the wind from whistling through there. What I did do is I cut a piece of yellow cedar, 1-inch stock down into 4 inches wide. And then I run it through the planer several times until it's, I don't know what that is, 5/8 inch thick, something like that. Well, I'm going to use that for a fence. That's going to stick out both sides. And I'll actually double that up on the existing fence boards here. So I'll just drill through it and screw it down to these existing fence boards. And that way it gives me a longer fence to work with, a higher fence. It'll be up above the cutting edge of this cutter. And then I'll just take and advance that fence back until the cutting edge, the amount that I want it to cut into the 2x6s that we're going to cut, is just sticking out through it. And then I'm going to have to fabricate something to go over the top here to close that in so all the chips and stuff go out the back. The other thing that I'm going to do is I have a piece of UHMW here. I got a 4x8 sheet of UHMW in the shipwright last summer, and I cut it down into strips that I put down on my ramp for the airplane to slide up on, because the wooden ramp that it slides up on was breaking down to the point, the wood was all breaking down to the point where the floats were digging in it, and I was having a hard time getting it on and off the ramp. And this is what's left over from that. So I'll cut a strip of this and attach it to this sacrificial fence here, and that way the wood should slide, at least that's my thought. My thought was that if I put that on there, then the wood would slide right past this. We've got yellow cedar that's going to go by it, and then the yellow cedar here, it feels nice and smooth, but it has a lot of resin in it, so it's really kind of sticky. And it'll actually get sticky, transfer that down here onto the shaper table. It gets sticky on the metal here, and of course wood against wood is liable to get sticky there. So if I put the UHMW strip on there, that should keep it from getting too sticky. Maybe I'll chop this fence off a little bit more so that it's the same length as what the UHMW is here. Probably not much point having the wooden part of it longer than what the slippery spot is here on it. So anyhow, that's the plan. That's what I'm working on right now. Okay, there we go. So this stuff is taking kind of a set from being just out in the woodshed there in an odd shape for a year. Well, I'll probably have to heat that up or something to get it to flatten out. Actually, it'll flatten out when I screw it down, but it'd be better if I didn't have to fight it when I did that.
Arching more. It's really arching now.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think it likes that.
Alright, that got it flattened out pretty good. Give it a little bit of persuasion to stay that way as it cools off. Well, I'll let that take a set. And I've got to get some screws, drill, and a countersink to screw that UHMW down to the board and then to the fence. Anyway, that's enough for a little while. Okay, there's my auxiliary fence. I sprayed them both down with some of this 3M Super 77 adhesive contact cement. I didn't think it was going to work on here because of the oil, resin stuff in the yellow cedar and then the slipperiness of the UHMW. But I washed both of them down with some acetone first, and then I sprayed this on both surfaces, let them stand for about 5 minutes or so, and stuck them together, and boy, they stuck together good. Then I went ahead and screwed them down just to make sure they stay stuck. So now what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and put a couple of screws through this into the fence that's on the shaper, so that it's on there, onto the fence boards that are on there. I have to clean my workbench off here now. I've got the new auxiliary fence attached to the fence on the shaper. So I guess the next thing to do now is to start the shaper up, and then I'll just advance that cutter through that fence until it comes out to where I can use it. Well, that's not quite going to work the way I had expected, and I should have known better than that, as that molding head is taller than what the cutter is in there. So that'll only advance through that fence until it comes into the molder head on top of where the cutter is. Well, that's the problem with using a 3-inch molder head instead of using a 2-inch molder head with a 2-inch cutter. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take that out of there, and I'm going to have to relieve the back side of this auxiliary fence above where that cutter goes on it. So, well, I'm ready to try this again. I went over to the shop and dug out the Forstner bits, and I hogged out some of the material on that fence where that molder head is going to come through there. There's left some in there where the knives are going to cut through, but I cut out what doesn't have knives in it so that that molder head should come through. So I guess we'll give it another try. Alright, well, it's come through all the way. It doesn't really need to. This lower knife section right here can just tickle the I'm going to run a piece through it and see how it works now. Give it a try. That is just about perfect.
That's how thick your boards are?
These are exactly the same as what the boards are going to be. Well, that's the groove side, and it's got a little bead, a little chamfer right here. So when it goes together, there'll be a little V groove there where the two of them go together. Oh, I think that looks pretty good.
Then how do you make the other side?
Well, I have to change the knives over for the other side, for the tongue side.
Okay. Wow. That's going to be nice. So fast and smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we get good weather again, we can open everything up and...
So we're not going to leave for a while. So I could do Oktoberfest next Saturday?
Oh yeah, next Saturday.
On the 27th. No, not this Saturday, 15th.
nice.
Really beautiful, Carl. That straight wood you red there. Holy cow. That is
Oh.
beautiful. Yeah. Gonna be nice.
Well, I'm happy with that.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
I need to,
Beautiful.
we can get it opened up. I'll need to make out in-feed table and out-feed table because those boards are going to be 14
Really
feet
long.
long. So,
Yep. Oh, out of your.
yeah, that's what I bought that melamine for, just to make in-feed and out-feed tables. Okay, the shaper is shaped up. It's set up for making the groove side of the tongue and groove boards. We got the fence set up. Now when we get some good weather, what I'll do is open the hanger doors up again, move this up to the edge, and then I've got a couple of sheets of 2x8 melamine that I'll set up for an in-feed and out-feed table on it to handle those big boards. And that feeder works great. That's going to be a great thing on there. And the UHMW fence, that works pretty good too. Anyway, the cut on that was just beautiful. I could possibly make it just a little bit deeper, but it looks pretty damn good to me. Well, we got a chamfer here on this edge, so there'll be a mating chamfer on the tongue, so there'll be a groove there, kind of a decorative groove to make that a panel. And it cuts plenty deep enough. There's no, I thought maybe I might have just a little feather edge on the bottom edge of this, but it's just about perfect. So that's going to be great. Well, found these bags. I've got the shaper covered up with a cover here, a bag. I've got my joiner and my planer and the table saw covered up with those too. And I found these on Amazon. It's called Z-Rust, Rust Preventative Table Saw Cover. It's some kind of plasticky cover. They've got it made to fit over a table saw with an extension like that big table saw, or like the table saw with the extension on it and everything, just to fit over the tabletop. It doesn't quite fit over these other tools like the planer and the joint. Actually, it fits over the joiner pretty good, and the shaper here, but it's a little big for the table saw without the extension on it, but it covers them up. We'll see how that works. It's supposed to inhibit corrosion from forming and spreading on metal surfaces. They say it's got some kind of a chemical in there impregnated into the plastic that just comes off over time and coats the surfaces with that, keeps them from rusting. So we'll see how they work. Before I put these away for the winter, I'm still going to put my covers on them like I had over the jointer. Put something in there, try to put something in there to keep the mice out of it.